Hello and welcome, this is Sage Blue. You're joining me on my first test of the Merc E190, a classic DTM car. Now, this is only the second time I've driven in wet weather conditions in project cars, and I have to say it's quite thrilling, especially on extremely cold tyres and brakes as well. Now, just giving you my first impressions of this. I should probably compare it to my previous race car, which is the Renault Clio. Now, this has a heck of a lot more power, and you have to seriously feather the throttle a lot with this car. I've jumped into it without any driver assists, so I'm taking it extremely easy. Now, it's, you're probably wondering, what am I thinking driving in the rain on a car and track that I don't know as well. Now, this is in the Czech Republic, and it's probably the best circuit I could think of for myself personally to learn how to throttle the engine with this car. The grip is quite good, especially after you alter the car setup a bit. Now, I've given extra negative camber to allow more to better turn in to the corners, but when you do that, be careful with the braking because it can destabilize the car, the extra negative camber. I've lowered the fuel load more to race distance, which helps a lot. Now, just remember as well, it's extremely cold brakes and tyres at the moment. I'm warming them up okay and the car's getting better and better. Just trying to concentrate as well while driving. While commentating. Now, I think I mentioned tyre pressures to alter the oversteer and understeer. So I've reduced the understeer by manipulating the tyre pressures. So what I've found with this Merc E190 is that I want to get it pointing straight coming out of a corner as soon as possible so I can put the power down. So oversteer helps with that, but at the same time I don't want to give away the stability of the car too much. It's with the default settings there's a heck of a lot of understeer, so, and just mechanical grip through the corners is not the greatest, so I found I had to create a fair bit of oversteer. There are people who probably prefer the understeer. It is a smooth flowing circuit after all. However, once I increased oversteer, it's I'm getting through the corners a lot better now and more quickly as well. Now, compared again to the Renault Clio, the power delivery, as I mentioned, is there. You get a real kick out of the corners, constantly feathering the throttle. And also getting used to these weather effects, which are fantastic in project cars, as you can see. It's the grip levels are seriously affected compared to the dry weather conditions, which is good to see. Once the tyres warm up, as they are warming up more and more now, and I'm getting more confidence with this car, it's the cornering's just getting better. So it's the forecast for the weather is to dry up, but I'm doing, I think, just a few laps here for you guys to give you the impressions of what this car's like, especially compared to the Renault Clio. It's again, this is touring car racing, which is fantastic. It's something I've long loved, especially in the 90s, watching world touring cars and British touring cars. It's been great. I've seen glimpses of German touring cars as well back then, and it's always provided great racing. It's more a matter of if you actually like touring cars or not. So if it's not your thing, then, you know, to each their own. If you are open to this sort of racing, fantastic. You won't regret it. It's this car is definitely something to get used to compared to the Renault Clio. Renault Clio, you can feed the throttle a lot more heavily and attack the corners a bit more, whereas this, you're more nursing the car through the corners. However, you do get a greater sense of speed coming out of the corners, that's for sure. So even now I'm just throttling, and you can see how the car was just drifting wide over the curves there. I'm trying to avoid the curves as much as possible, because as you'd expect in the wet, it's easy to spin the car over wet curbs, so even then the car wanted to have its rear kicked out. So, and I'm still understeering a bit, so I will try and get a bit more grip going into the corners and better turn in, but I'd have to balance that with the imbalances that result, especially under braking. The last thing you'd want here is imbalances where the tail kicks out, because you'll just lose so much speed with that. You want to keep the speed up as much as possible, especially the revs. The sound effects are fantastic as always in project cars. The engine sounds, the tyre screeching, the tyre modelling is fantastic. You do get quite a lot of feedback. The vibrations in the gamepad controller is always there, so you know when the car's under strain, under brakes, or when you're coming out of a corner. So it just helps all that little bit more. Obviously, if you're driving a real car, it'll be more easier to understand what the car's doing, but this is great considering the system that and setup that you have. Okay, so testing the ripple strips a bit. The car grips okay on them now. Coming out of the pits, first lap on really cold tyres and brakes, there's no way you could really handle it. You really do have to feather the throttle. Now I'm finding I can actually brake a lot more harder as well with the warmed up tyres and brakes. So it's helping immensely in these conditions. It's much more enjoyable to drive now. So this is basically a practice session. And in project cars, you'll find in practice sessions, your first few laps, especially the first lap, you'll find the brakes and the tyres are both extremely cold. And in this car, it's best just point the car in the right direction, try and get it straight while coming out of the corner as soon as you can, so you can put the power on. Don't try and put too much power on while you're still steering on the cold brakes and tyres. Otherwise you'll probably just spin, even in the dry. It's just one of those things. Although modern touring cars now, they handle things a lot better, I think. But these are still great cars to drive. In this class, if you race this car, you'll be racing the likes of Ford Sierras, the BMW M3, I think. Both fantastic cars in themselves. In the future, I'll have a drive of those for you as well. Decided just to try the Merc E190 first. Great sounding engine. Very different sound to what the Renault Clio would give you. Something else to notice, because of the smooth flowing nature of this circuit, It's the car's not bottoming out at all or anything. It's quite smooth, no serious undulations or rapid undulations at all. So very different to my previous videos at the Snetterton 200 and Alton Park. Very different nature this circuit has. Okay, so that's my first impressions with this car. The tyre pressures have certainly helped creating the oversteer while not losing too much stability. The camber certainly can result with losing stability if you increase the negative camber, but I've still increased the negative camber to help with turn-in. I'm willing to go for the extra speed with the lap times, and it just makes the car that much more drivable. When it's understeering for me personally, I just find it a struggle, you know, to just take these corners. It's like you're just letting the car drive rather than yourself driving the car. But with understeer, I feel like you have more control with the car and get the car to turn in where you want it to. The brakes are performing well now. The car's not twitching, wanting to have the tail kicked out under brakes, which is great. Still always feathering the throttle here, as you can imagine in these rainy conditions. Sometimes it gets tricky to see where I'm going as the raindrops cover up the windshield, or the windscreen I should say, but it's all part of the experience. There's the ripple strips for you, the car really wanting to slide a bit. Had to back off the throttle a little bit there. Still braking a little bit early at times, probably because of my commentary not being able to put full focus on this, but that's okay. It's more to give you an idea of what this is like. And I'm learning this track pretty well now as well, so I'll be able to give you all a race soon with one of these cars, and hope this gives you a reasonable idea of what to expect with this car, especially comparing it to where I was with the Renault Clio in previous race videos. And I hope it helps with you adapting to this, and I look forward to showing you guys a race. So there we go. So look forward to showing you the next race, and I'll see you then.